The best part of kimchi jjigae to me is that the acid from the kimchi soup, but then also having this pork fat immersed through the soup. I am a adoptee chef now cooking Korean food in Korea for the first time. I'm coming from an angle of having entirely different perspective on Korean food. My name's Greg Norrish, and I'm 32 years old.
What do you do?
I'm a chef here in Seoul. So I was adopted to northeastern Connecticut when I was really young. What we're gonna try to do is render a bunch of pork fat from the samgyeopsal and then cook the kimchi in it and introduce garlic and everything else, and then we'll just make a jjigae out of it. The first time I tried Korean food was a year and a half before I moved here, maybe. I was probably 29 or so the first time I had Korean food. And it was with my friend who was just astonished that I'd never had Korean food before. I just like jjigae a lot. I like really warm, I don't know, hearty things like that. There's also this connection to kimchi jjigae, which is one of the restaurants that I worked in, we ate it 3 or 4 times a week before our shifts. And that was comforting. That was around the first time that, I was making friends here and felt like I had a circle. I mean, the first time that I came to Korea was on one of those adoptee welcome home trips. And the way that I ended up getting onto the trip was that I got my adoption papers from my parents and I just posted them on Instagram because I didn't really know what to do and thought I'd just share it. And then my friend who was living in New York sent the post to her friend who's living here in Seoul, and he contacted my adoption agency and then they emailed me. So this was in May 2017. The next month in June, they let me know that, well, we're having this trip for adoptees in August if you want to come. And I hadn't ever thought about it before, so it was all kind of moving fast. I remember halfway through the trip just thinking this was not nearly as long as I thought it was going to be, and I really like Seoul. I want to come back. So on the plane ride home, I just started thinking about how I was going to move back here and got my plan together, and then I got off the plane and called my family and packed up and was back here in 40 days. Right now I'm working on a new restaurant with a chef owner of Ikson Banju and another chef who used to run the kitchen at the bar of Jungsik in Apgujeong. And the three of us are working on Korean style food, traditional or commonly known Korean dishes, but it's kind of our take on it. I think with my perspective, I'm really just viewing Korean food through the lens of having only experienced it for the past couple of years. I didn't come here to learn traditional methods of cooking. I didn't come here to study the process of making doenjang and for me, cooking Korean food has more to do with my own experience. It has to do with everything that I've wanted to explore by being here. So I think now that we have we've gotten what we want out of this. I hadn't intentionally came here to look for my birth mother. maybe I was subconsciously telling myself not to get too excited or put too much energy into looking for my birth mother because it probably was not going to end, the way I would have wanted it to. A friend that I had who's a hotel manager in Gangnam, and he used his connections to research. He was so enthusiastic about it and a little buzzed off soju, so I was just like, okay, go for it. The next week we find out that there's 12 people with the same name and birth date in Korea as her. Another month later, we find out that there's 2 people that it likely is, and then 2 months later, I found out that she's, of the 2, the one that's most likely her has passed already. And that was just kind of where I stopped. Yeah, it's just like a traditional anchovy stock, but I made it pretty mild because I didn't want it to like overpower the flavors that we have going on here. Because I was worried that in the first restaurant that I worked in, it was a little later into the night, there was a guy there with I think the person was his girlfriend, and he got upset about something and grabbed her by her hair and literally threw her out of the chair onto the ground in one movement. Around the time that I had found out that my mom had died was the same time that I had started seeing all of these attacks in public. And there was a period of like 2 weeks where I saw 3 different women get attacked in public. I was in a position where I was reflecting on what my mom's life would have been like and what she experienced with her 6 months hiding in a closet, pregnant with me, forced to leave her job to hide a major part of her life from her family, and wondering how those events ended up contributing to her life and where she was. And I couldn't help but think, well, is it possible that the way she was treated experienced to her dying at such a young age? I mean, she would have only been, I think, 51 when she died. So I just naturally started thinking about the history of how women have been treated in Korea, especially unwed single mothers in this country. I am not in a position where I can separate those 2 things and how I reflect on me being here.
There may be some people who say that, how dare you cook in that way? That's not the real Korean.
Sure.
What would you like to say to those people?
So that's a great question. I think I struggled with the idea of cooking Korean food for a little while. And even when Hyung-woo mentioned this restaurant, I really wasn't sure because I've never really cooked Korean food. But the more I thought about it and kind of reflected on like where the food that I like to eat is right now, that element of having a history with the food wasn't as important. And if people and chefs can go, decide to move to a country and learn that cuisine and then that's their story, I don't see why I can't do the same thing when this is my home. I think at a certain point I'm gonna struggle with having what I do professionally be tied to my personal narrative. And maybe I don't get the opportunity to escape that ever. Maybe I'm always just going to be attached to being a chef who's also an adoptee. I think I want to achieve a honest representation of my experiences and my time here, and have that be very easily understood by the people that I'm making food for. That would be something that I'd really like to achieve. And I think that we can do it. I think that I can get there. Right now, I'm just focused on this restaurant, I guess. Yeah.